Loves here, and today we're going to be talking about diatonic chord sets. So now that we've talked about scales, and we've talked about chords, and we've talked about major, minor, augmented, and diminished chords, we actually have all the info we need to know to make diatonic chord sets. This is really cool. This is where functional harmony begins to become much more meaningful to us. So a diatonic chord set, simply put, is if you have some scale, like the major scale. What if you were to make all the triads on every single note? So if you were to take this C and fill it in with two notes like so. Whoops, my bad. Okay, so if we were to fill it in with two notes and then do that to the next one, and we did this all the way up, and we made all the triads on every scale degree, but we kept them so that they're all diatonic. So we only use notes inside the key. What will occur? What will happen? And so these are called diatonic chord sets. They're one of the foundations to making songs and seeing chord patterns. So we'll begin to get into this way chord move, the way you make chord progressions after we finish up. We're going to go through some seventh chords and things that are pretty necessary. So we say here, so here's our major scale, and here we've done it. And we notice that when we do this, we analyze it with our Roman numerals, and we get this here pattern. And we say, oh, it's a 1, 2. So we say, oh, the first chord's major. And in a major key, that's pretty given, major. The second chord in any major key, so it could be D major, F major, anything that's a major key will always be minor. The next chord will be minor, and then we'll have major, major, minor, diminished, major. And this is something that if you don't have it memorized now, when you do composition and things, and you do enough Roman numeral analysis, you'll memorize. And I recommend memorizing it deliberately, but if you don't have it memorized deliberately, it will begin to pop up. So some teachers will make you write exercises. They'll be like, write all the diatonic, or they won't say that. They'll say, write the chord set. Maybe they'll say diatonic to be fancy, of D major. And then you'll just write the D major scale, fill in all the notes, and then make sure, if you're not allowed to use key signatures, just make sure, all your C's are sharp and all your F's are sharp. That's usually where you lose points on these sorts of things. So it's literally just make the scale, make sure all your notes are diatonic, and then analyze the chords. Or you could, if you have this like, oh, I know the first chord's always major, minor, minor, the seven's diminished. So this is the chord set. This is really useful. This reveals the functional harmony I was talking about. So here we have like 1. I wonder if there's a way if I click on it to make it play the whole chord. Anyways, we have 1. And then we could say, well, we know that because this occurs in every major key, because it's the same set of intervals, the same set of chords always appear, that's what gives it its sound. That's why the 5 to the 1 sounds the way it does, or the 4, 5, 1. And so we'll actually use the 3 much less often in the major scale. Usually instructors will even tell you to just avoid it because it's just not that. It's when you're doing like really structured exercises or you're just trying to pass the test, it's not the exact. That's not the best time to be experimental. You're trying to demonstrate knowledge on a particular topic. So usually you want to stay with like 1, 5, 4, 5, 1. Like you just hop back and forth between the 1 and the 5 if you can, because those are always like the safest things to sort of mess with, unless you're doing something specific. So I've seen a number of people lose points because they went crazy and they used weird chords. They just used weird chords, and it was a cool sound, but it did not demonstrate the principle at hand. So just be aware of that. So now we could say, okay, well, this is the major scale. What about the minor scale? So this has all the same notes, right? So we would expect because it's the relative minor scale. This is A minor, that's C major. So we would expect these chords to reappear here in its chord set. And if we look, they do appear. So check this out. We have our diminished followed by a major, right? Here's our diminished chord followed by a major. And our third chord is our relative major to this minor key. So we have diminished major, and then we have our minor, minor, major, major. And if we look over here, minor, minor, because this thing repeats. That's why I skipped it over here. Minor, minor, major, major, and then you see, oh, it's all just been shifted over. So that's what the minor key is. And again, we could look at this from we've talked about this briefly, but this would be referred to as we're moving through these different modes. And so this is just a different mode. So it will just change. It'll just shift the relationships over. So now our tonal center is on A instead, and we start with the minor chord. So the major one sounds like this. And the minor one sounds like this. Now, the problem that happened with natural minor scales is they didn't always offer the harmonic structure that we wanted. Sometimes we wanted a major 5. Actually, a lot of times we wanted a major 5. There's a sound that goes with the natural minor scale that is pretty easily recognized because of some of the chords the way they are. And so we will end up using the harmonic scale a ton just because it has this raised 7th. And what that raised 7th does for us diatonically is it actually makes our 5 major. It makes our 7 diminished again. If we look over here, and then it also augments one of our chords. So this augmentation, this is one thing we typically pass up. We don't usually augment our, holy smokes, I just realized that is a 6. This should be a 3. Okay. So yeah, this is something that when we're doing this, it should be a capital 3. When we're doing this, yeah, we will typically, we won't use this one as much. We'll be working in the relative minor, and then we'll sharp it to get either a major 5 to take advantage of the 7, or to take advantage of this 7 over here too. So there's that. So the one you really need to, the 2 big ones you really need to know as you move forward are the major scale chord pattern and the natural minor scale. And then you can realize that there are a couple chord changes that happen when we shift to harmonic. And then you say, you didn't list melodic on here. We don't use melodic enough for me to consider writing it, but you do the exact same process and you could observe the harmonic structure will change. And going up and down offers some really cool harmonic advantages, but it's a little overkill for this stage in what we're doing. Later on, we'll bring it up like it's a thing just like anything else, but you'll use this material enough to where you'll just know what to do with the information. You won't need anyone to explain it to you. But for now, that's what's going on. So these are diatonic chord sets. If I were to say like make these chord sets, you could do it. The next exercises are actually going to be mostly analysis and composition exercises because they're more interesting. Because doing this, what people end up doing, this is what I did when I had to do it, was you just write the scale, you fill in the things, and then you write the little pattern down. And then you're done. And then you don't remember it because it was too easy and like completely meaningless. So it's like not as cool as actually using it. So we're going to do things that use it. I may later on down the line, if I notice something funky, I may include it for some reason. But right now, I'm going to focus on other styles of exercise for this particular sort of thing. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.